hope you've had an uneventful week. I hope everything is going well for everyone. And I just came on here to share information like I always do with a little bit of rant in the mix. So I this is on my spirit because at the time the event was going on, I was not able to share this information without, you know, a lot of misunderstanding, no understanding, having to repeat, having to elaborate, and having to go deep. I just wasn't able to share it. I wasn't able to share it without interruption. So I'll come here and I'll share it. So I was asked to help someone with something. And I've been asked before, and as always, it never, it never pans out the way I plan. I plan it to be so simple, so easy, but it just doesn't, it doesn't end up that way. So it never works. So there was a third party who had been solicited to help. Unfortunately, that didn't pan through as we had hoped. So, in my mind, I'm thinking, first of all, I don't like to do a lot of reading and studying and shit. I do that every day at work. So when I'm not at work, I don't want to do it. But I'm happy to help. You help me help you, right? That was what was on my mind. So in the midst of her explaining what she needed help with, and us realizing that the third party help that we were hoping to get that we would not be able to get, you know, a red light goes off in my head. And I was thinking, you know what? Instead of you having to do all of the reading, because mind you, she is real big on wanting people to read a lot of her stuff. And I don't have a problem with it. I'm happy to jump in and help. Hey, good morning, and to support. But for me, uh, I'm very communicated oriented. So when I ask you questions and ask you to explain, and you can't explain, you want me to go and read something, and I'm telling you I don't want to read, then that tells a lot. You know what I'm saying? Because something that I'm very passionate about, I can explain to you. I can verbalize that to you. I don't need to go pull up papers. I don't need you to pull up papers. If I'm passionate about it, I can explain it all day in my sleep, forward and backwards. So I'm saying, okay, I know the words can't come out, and that's cool. But you're asking for my help, and I'm happy to help. So I say, you know what? Why don't you sit down and write an outline down? Good morning, Sylvia. Why don't you sit down and outline? And I'm about to, you know, recommend that she do something so that I can help her more. And it was it became a total shit show. you know, uh, Very angry, had huffing and puffing and had to hang up. And I'm thinking to myself, what is going on? Every time I'm solicited for help, I can't ask no questions. I can't make no statements. You can't explain nothing. I always got to read. I always got to read. And then, it hit me. I said, you know what? When you go to somebody and ask them to help you with something, most of the time they're going to ask you to do something. They're going to ask you questions. So with that, I don't see where the frustration comes in, because this is something that's very passionate for her. And so I'm thinking, damn, I can't ask no questions. I can't tell her to do nothing. And yelling and huffing and puffing, and I gotta go. I'll call you back. And I'm just trying to figure out, you know what? I think what it is that she wants it done so bad that she's not realizing her frustration comes in because she wants it done the way she wants it done, when she wants it done, how she wants it done. When you have a requirement or something that you want done that way, you're the only one that can do it. You have to sit down and do it. But when you're asking someone to help you get reach this goal, then you're going to have to be able to have input, accept input. You're going to have to be able to sit down and outline. And I've said this countless times, when you go to college, this is something that you learn. When you go to college and get degrees, this is something that you learn. You got to practice what you learn. You sit down and make an outline. The outline helps you formulate strategies, formulate words. It helps you to bring this thing home. It sits down and it paints a picture in a smaller frame. So that way you have something to make bigger. Furthermore, whenever you're soliciting someone to help you, they gotta know what's going on, what you expect, what are you trying to do. And if you put it in an outline, a person can take that outline and pass it out to people in the room, and people will be like, oh, okay. Okay, so now I see. Now people can help formulate. People can come up with ideas. People can do something. But if you're not willing to help someone help you, you will forever be stuck. And I have to come here to let it off my chest because I couldn't let it off with her. I couldn't explain. I couldn't talk. It was just a whole shutdown mode. So I just come here to tell people, it, it we're here to help each other, right? We're here to do, but and I say this all the time, do the work, do the work, do the work. And I believe when I say that, because they're so wrapped up emotionally, they see it as a negative. I am doing the work. You don't have an outline to present to anyone that you ask to help you. And a lot of the work is sitting down, formulating what you got into words. And if you can't verbalize in 2 or 3 sentences what it is you're trying to do, then baby, an outline will do it for you. So it makes me wonder, are we not able to do an outline? Because if we can't verbalize, you got to be able to express it somewhere. And an outline makes it easier when you go to ask people to help you. If you put it in an outline, that's something that's not 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages. An outline can be created in 8 or 9 bullet points. If you can't do an outline, man, you know, that makes it hard. At that point, then you need to pull out your checkbook and go pay a professional. You know what I'm saying? But I try to explain. I try to share my information, and hey, it may not come off the way you want it. You may perceive it in a negative way if that's your thought process. Um, but if you're not sitting down and putting hard thought into it, the reality is, number one, everybody can't have what they want, how they want, when they want it, or whatever. You only get that when you paying the piper, right? So if you're trying to get free assistance, then it's some things you're gonna have to bow down to, and it's just that simple. You know what I'm saying? It is a lot of things I have suggested in the past, and I was, given explanations as to why they couldn't do it. I've asked specific questions in the past. Are your documents ready? Do you have this? Do you have statements? Do you have your operation? Do you have that, 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 that? And I was told yes. Well, if you have those things, it should take you all of 10 minutes to sit down and put the outline together. If you have all of that paperwork together. See, copying and pasting only works when you understand what you're doing, right? So I just, it's been on my spirit for a minute. Anytime I'm having a conversation and I'm just not allowed to finish my sentences, when I'm not allowed to finish my thoughts because your thoughts and what you have to say trumps everybody else, trumps everything else, then I have to come on here and get it off, right? Because the conversation takes two people, right? If you're speaking, I listen to you. And then when I'm speaking, you listen to me. And if I'm speaking or trying to ask a question and you cut me off to respond, you don't you I didn't finish the question. What are you actually responding to? That means you listened to a certain point and had to shut down and get it off of your spirit, but you haven't addressed what I'm trying to ask. And in all honesty, the response has been many times I answered the question, I just didn't answer it the way you wanted me to answer it, or I didn't answer it the way you thought I was going to answer. And, of course, that tells a lot because if the answer doesn't satisfy my question, then my question has been answered. You gave me a response, you didn't answer the question. So being able to identify facts and reality, facts and emotion, facts and whatever, is very key to life because communication is how we operate, right? So if I ask you what color is the car, and you start talking about when you purchased the car and how much you paid for the car, you consider that an answer. I bet your teacher wouldn't have considered that an answer because I still don't know what color the fucking car is, right? All I know is the history of what you did. Why did you feel it necessary to give me all of that instead of a simple yes or no, instead of a simple green, blue, black, or red? You know what I'm saying? So I sit down and I put it all together, and I know that there's a hidden issue somewhere. It's a hidden issue that, obviously we're not going to be able to verbalize, and that's fine. I then, as I've done for my last 40, 50 plus working years, is I've had to re-strategize. I've had to bob and weave. I've had to find ways around certain things that you can't just be direct with. But being direct cuts down confusion. It eliminates additional question. It provides you straight information, whether you like it or not, whether you receive it or not, whether you accept. It's straight to the point. There is no confusion. But when you have to start, trying to reword, figure out how to re-say it and do all of the things, then that's where all of the confusion comes in. And as a working girl, my job is to eliminate confusion, get straight to the point, ask what you need. And if you're not getting what you need, let them know you're not giving me what I need. If you're reading too much into it, you're trying to give me stuff I don't need. You're overload, overload. And if you can't verbalize the information to me and you want me to read, all of these pages, why? You know what I'm saying? How much am I getting paid for this? You know what I'm saying? Because for me, I can verbalize anything, especially if it's something on my heart. This is not a blow. This is not low. This is not condescending. This is me um, not only sharing, but clearing my chest from something that I was not able to clear off with a conversation. And when something eat at me, I got to get it off. Y'all know this is what we do. We come here, we get it off our chest, and we move on. And that's it. So, I say that to assist. And hey, if you don't want it, you don't have to take it. You don't have to, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to listen. You don't have to do. Do what works for you. And if you have someone that is helping you and do the work, I would hope you're sharing enough pertinent information with that individual to get what you need and to get it as close to accurate as possible. Because people can be very dirty out here in this world, honey. They can be dirty, dirty, and they'll just throw something together and hand it off to you, and you read it, and it looks so professional. It's grammatically correct, and all of the commas are where they supposed to be, and you think you hitting 100. When really what they done said in the letter is that McDonald's suck. I don't like Burger King. I like sushi. You know what I'm saying? So, understanding it is the best way to communicate. Because if I don't understand what you're saying, how can I respond accurately? And if I'm not responding accurately to you, then I can only imagine in your head you saying, "What the hell is they talking about?" So, um, you got to be willing. If you're asking somebody for help, you got to be willing to listen. You got to be willing to help them help you. If they ask you to do something and you're asking for their help, the very least you could do is give them what they want. Remember, you ask them to help you. And if they ask you to give them something to help you and you don't want to give it to them, that tells me you really don't want the help. You want them to do the work for you, right? Because questions usually give you the answers that you need to help them. And if you're not able to verbalize it to the point that they can understand it, then put it in an outline. Maybe the questions may change differently because now they have some idea. They may or may not still have the questions. And that's kind of how it started with the third party. The third party was asking me questions I couldn't answer because when I was asking the questions, the answers was coming all willy nilly. I was like, girl, like stop. I listen. I tried. I don't know what else to tell you. So at that point, it was kind of like, child, oh my God. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, I get it. I did my part. I tried to ask. I tried to answer the little I could. You told me you don't send nothing. You don't want to read nothing. You're talking. I understand. I tried to do it that same way. So I say all of that to say this. If you ask somebody to help you and they're asking you to give them something, if you want the help, give it to them. Sit down and put it together and get it. Don't cost you nothing. But until you're ready to meet them halfway, then you're like a hamster on the wheel, just spinning, 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 getting nowhere fast. Because this same outline that was asked of now, this outline was asked almost 2 years ago. So you know, you gotta it's a back and forth, a give and take. You know what I'm saying? I asked you for help, you asked me questions. If I give you what I want to give you and you say you don't have the answer, then I need to figure out another way to give it to you. And if I put it in writing in an outline, like I said, in 8 or 9 bullet points, then you should be able to paint a picture, because that's what an outline is painting a picture with very short words and or phrases, but so that you can understand. And when you go to college and you come out with multiple degrees, an outline shouldn't be nothing for you. So, I it is what it is, and I finally gotten it off my chest because it has been eating and eating and eating at me. And I would have thought that maybe it was something I could communicate, but once I realized I couldn't, I was like, wow. And the real question is, do you realize how you're holding yourself back? Because there's been so many times you've asked for help, and every time not able to verbalize it without a long story. Well, hell, if the story too long, you lost me 3 hours ago with the story. If you can't give it to me short and sweet, then baby, you need to figure out, go learn, do a tutorial. You need to do something and figure out how to put an outline together. Because if you can't verbalize it with me, short and sweet, you can't verbalize it with him, her, them. A long story, nobody wants to read a long paragraph about something. Nobody wants to read a long email. Nobody wants to read a long. So you gotta better figure out how to make it short and sweet. And if you can't verbalize it, an outline will do it for you. If you can't do an outline, Google will help you. There are places where you can take classes for free and figure out how to formulate an outline. And if you've spoken to someone else and they didn't need an outline, then there you go. That's the person that should be able to help you and get you going. Now, at the end of the day, whether they get you going in 2 days, 2 weeks, or 2 months, when is it going to come to fruition? That's what the last question would be. The bottom line. When does it come to fruition? So anyway, I just came on here to get that off my chest because it was really eating me up. I'm just, it's whenever you can start a conversation, but the conversation gets convoluted because you can never finish a statement, it becomes very frustrating. You know, uh, because I have no problem listening to people. I listen for understanding. If you can't finish your statement and I'm talking over you and I keep interrupting you, how can I understand anything you saying if I'm talking, but I'm trying to tell you. You can't be trying to tell me nothing because my question had a response that was either yes or no. So you start giving me sentences and stuff. If you can't answer yes or no, then before you speak, stop and think. Think, ask yourself questions, tell yourself the story in your head. But when you open your mouth, give me the simple version, either yes or no. So I hear that, I try to listen, I try to understand, but I remember once upon a time, you know, um, we celebrated, we congratulated, we had a discussion about how blessed they were in college and how many degrees they have, and I think to myself, I don't know why it still is hard, because even in school the communication got to be fruitful. And I know in school, if the teacher asked you for something you didn't give her what you wanted, then you couldn't. There's no way in hell you could get good grades. And if you got good grades and wasn't giving her what she wanted, then she was just passing you through. Passing you through, whether it's lower level school, big level school, university school, doesn't really help you. It gives you that piece of paper that you need to get a job that pays you hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever. But when you get in the job, can you communicate it? Will your skills show them that, oh well, yeah, she did very well. Oh yeah, she has this. You know what I'm saying? So you have to take time to look on the inside. When you have a lot of stress, a lot of stuff going on in your life, everything is not as simple as you may think it would be. But the key to my madness was the fact that somebody asked me to help them. And when I asked them, no charge, no money involved, when I asked them to do something for me to help them, they refused. I really did. I didn't get to finish my sentence, so you didn't even get to hear the whole request. But I prayed about it, and the Spirit told me, you can't help this person as much as you want, as much as you try, you can't. Because when it comes to that communication level, y'all can't communicate on a business level. As hard as I've tried. On a social level, absolutely. We communicate all the time. On a social level. On the business level, we can't communicate because we're at two different levels. You understand what I'm saying? And part of communication is letting the person finish what the fuck they trying to say, and then you respond accordingly. We can't get there, let alone can we get to a place to where when we're talking on a business level or on a business subject, when I, ask a question, you can just give me a straight answer so that I can formulate a strategy. If it's going to take you 6 minutes to answer a question that could be answered with a yes or no, now I done lost where I was at. I done lost gears. I got to start over. Well, this is a social thing. I'm not getting paid to do this. Why do I want to spend time spinning my gears when I just did 8, 9, 10 hours at work? No, I want to help you. But you have to help me help you. I'm not asking for no money. They money not good with me. I don't want no money from them. But I want them to stop talking and listen long enough so that they can formulate something in their mind that makes sense when they open their mouth. It might make sense to you if you talking to yourself. But if you're talking to somebody else and they're asking questions, did it ever occur to you why they might be asking questions? Not just to understand what you're doing, but to get a better understanding so that maybe they could recommend some things to you. Maybe they want to share some tips. Maybe they want to tell you where you can go to get some assistance, whether it be money, product, you know what I'm saying, workers, whatever. But you got to keep it short and sweet. Because if it's gonna take too long, then shit, they'll die off. They'll leave that alone because they don't want to go through it. See, you when listen, as Grandpa used to say, when a nigga know his shit, he quick with it. It don't take him 15, 30 minutes to tell you something, explain to. When he know this shit, he quick with it. So and I try to. I might ask, what size was the steak? And you start telling me about the cow. Then I might turn around and say, well, was it a porterhouse, a T-bone? Well, I get my steaks from over. And I'm like, wait, where's she going? And I stopped talking just to try to make it make sense in my mind. I don't understand what was hard about my question. Why am I getting all these crazy answers? And the answers are not so much crazy, but they not addressing what I asked. So I'm trying to figure out what the hell are they talking. So now I didn't, child, like my mind just like, girl, leave it alone, shut it down, because it's too. If it becomes too hard for me to help you, then how can I help you? And if you're not willing to help me help you, then that means you want it how you want it done. And if you can't do it, then you go pay somebody to do it. But if you want me to help you, then you gotta help me help you. Because when somebody is helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you either accept the help or you move on. You can't customize free. You can customize when you're a paying customer, right? But if I call my sister or my uncle up and they say, hey, listen, do this, and send it to me. Well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to walk away from the conversation, get all huffy and puffy and hang up and out. I was like, that's kind of, that could be seen as a couple of things. I choose to say selfish, but that's not how this person is by any means. And I say that from my heart, but when I look at the business conversation over the last 2 years, selfish is very appropriate for the business part of the conversation. I don't understand why, and mm, I have to just let it go and walk away from it because it's not for me to understand. That's their shit, right? I'm only trying to get understanding so that I could recommend or point them in some direction where they can get this, that, and the third. But Mama say if you create one, you ought to be able to create another. Now, if you done change the game plan on what you trying to do, then and you didn't go to school for business, you didn't get a degree in business, then you probably want to either go back to school and get a degree in business, or you want to start getting online and asking Google what to do, how should it read, and go ask ChatBT. They got AI on the internet now. It do everything for you. If you're not internet savvy, then ask your kids. You know, but in order for you to say I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna do this, and you didn't go to school to study how to do it, then what make you think you're going to be able to do it without putting some thought process, some study, some you know what I'm saying? You got to get all of your groundwork together first before you make the first move to do anything else. And what happens, I think, a lot of times is people push the cart in front of the horse. They start taking action before they know what they really supposed to be doing next. And then they done got so far. Now you've created confusion where there should not be any, right? Because now you think you read it, but the reality of it is you didn't. And I've said years ago, get all your paperwork and stuff in order. And I was told they had everything. Now the story is starting to change. That tells a lot. Because if the paperwork was together 2 years ago, why did it change? Maybe you decided to take another avenue. Maybe you decided to go another route. Maybe you decided whatever you decided. But if the paperwork was in order, how did you do the paperwork if you didn't do an outline? If you didn't use an outline to help you get your paperwork in right order? Because if you're telling a story about Jack and Jill, you can't tell what happened to Jack and Jill at the beginning of the story. At the beginning of the story, you got to explain who the fuck Jack and Jill is before you go any further. So, writing is essential uh, when you're having to do it, when you're having to do it on your own. You got to start from the fundamental ABC kindergarten basics. Now, if you using a professional, you ain't got to do shit but sit down and tell him or her everything you want to tell them, however long it take you to tell them, and then cut check and pan and leave, and they'll do the rest. But when that's not the case, You gotta bob and weave. You gotta, if I ask you to give me something so that I can try to put it together, because I don't, it shouldn't take 20 minutes to answer a simple question. Short and sweet. And we're talking about something that you're passionate about. Now, if it's something that, you know what I'm saying, you just stepping into, you may not know about it. Then before you start talking about it, do your research, have an understanding, know what the hell is going on, know whether or not this is something you can even do. Because what would be worse than anything is spending 6 months planning to do something only to find out when it's time to, break the mold and get everything going, that you can't do it because you're not eligible, or for whatever reason. That's something that could have been found out during, as the lawyer said, doing discovery. So again, the information is just to help, to educate, to give them some way to understand the path that they need to go to get this information, because I can't help, or my third party can't help, you know um and I can only assume that, you know if you're asking me, then maybe you asked somebody else and they weren't able to give you what you thought was good, or whatever the case may be. If you have somebody else, hey, God bless, good luck. I want people to, what I'm saying? I want them to grow. I want them to prosper. I want them to flourish. But the one thing about it, and two things for sure, if you don't go in order, you will always be in confusion, because it is always an A, B, C, D, like there is a one, two, three, four, five. You can't say A, B, L, T, Q, O, R, F. No, ma'am. You can't say 1, 2, 9, 47, 11, 33, 8. You, you on the hamster wheel. You got to take it in order. That's the best way to get proper understanding. Understanding is not just, well, I'm just telling you what they told me. What? So you don't understand that. You just talking. Like, you know what I'm saying? You have to hear yourself what you're saying, because if you don't, you may be talking crazy and don't even realize you sound crazy. Or I'm just telling you what they told me. Huh? I would hope not, but okay. Well, good luck. You can't tell me that apples is goddamn purple, bitch. I got 20 questions for you. Why the fuck is apples purple? You gonna have to help me understand. Okay, so the tree trunk was blue and not green. Uh-huh. And the vines was pink. Uh-huh. And so the stems, when the stems turn orange, okay. That's a understanding. If you tell me the apples is purple, and I turn around and tell somebody else, but I don't have no idea how the hell the apples got, girl, you don't have no understanding. You don't have no understanding. And one thing about it is, asking questions tells you whether or not they understand, right? Because if they can't make it make sense to you, it don't make sense to them. There's no excuse. There's no way to justify what she just don't understand. I'm telling her exactly what they told me. Okay, okay. Well, it's your situation. Good luck. Hope it work out. All of the things. Doesn't bother me any. I don't. I don't know what else to say. I don't. I don't even know what else to say. So anyway, so much for that rant. I feel so much better now. I can stop thinking about it. I won't hear it anymore. I won't have to discuss it. I won't talk about it. God bless. I pray. I wish, everybody well. And yeah, y'all have a good day. Happy Friday. Now I'm fixing to get ready to get my lunch together.